Elon Musk is roasting Star Wars. Why? Because they got a new Pakistani director who says it's about time they let a woman come forward to shape the story. Yeah, here's the story from Bounding into Comics. Upcoming Ray solo film director Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy says it's about time we had a woman come forward to shape the story of Star Wars. Star Wars sucks. I'm sorry. It's time you all accept it. Star Wars is bad. It is a convoluted, nonsensical fantasy sci-fi IP. Nothing makes sense. It's dumb. You know, the original Star Wars films were good. A good sci-fi adventure. And a lot of people claim that it just ripped off Dune anyway, but good. The prequels were a little bit silly, but we enjoyed them for what they were. Then they made the sequels, and those were just really bad. And since then, they've continually just made more and more garbage. The Mandalorian was okay, but still fairly garbage. I was watching, someone posted some clip about like Ahsoka and these other shows, and I'm like, dude, it's just awful. Now, don't get me wrong. A lot of the modern versions of or expansions of this IP is getting really, really awful. Look what they tried to do with Ghostbusters in 2016. Blech. They redeemed themselves quite a bit with the latest Ghostbusters, which kind of just forgets 2016 happened. And the new one coming out, we're a little bit excited for. But, you know, I think ultimately the big problem we have is that everything is a derivative work. We need some new stuff. Perhaps one of the reasons that Eric July's Rippaverse is doing so well and expanding so rapidly is that it's new. And all we're just seeing is this convoluted mess of everything. Look, don't get me wrong. I've never been the biggest Star Wars fan. I like Star Wars. Knights of the Old Republic. What an amazing game. And it was fun. And fun. Jedi Knight 2. These games were fantastic. Oh, Battlefront. Man, stuff was great. But now it's just a convoluted mess. And as I was going to say, don't get me wrong. Star Trek also has become a convoluted mess as well. They have no idea how to actually run these stories. What's fascinating about all of this is that when we talk about who's succeeding in the fiction, fantasy, sci-fi, in this medium, it's Japan. Anime and manga. And it's funny, you know, we got like Michael Malice on the show, and I mentioned manga. It's like, oh, and I'm like, the values that you get from, or that are delivered through like the classic, the top anime and manga makes American media look like trash. We talked about this with Eric July, how when you, like someone says like, I want to watch or read One Piece. What do? Go to issue 1. The whole thing, the continuity is all there. And of course, don't get me wrong. Okay, say that again. Naruto went basically off the rails. I had been watching and I've been reading the manga, the scanlations every week, and for its entire run. I mean, not like literally the start of Naruto. I don't know when it started, but around like Shippuden. If you don't understand what I'm talking about, just bear with me and ignore the esoteric nature of it. Every week a new issue would come out. I'd read it, and then towards the end, all of a sudden, it went from like ninjas who were fighting to aliens. And I'm just like, eh. And so I'm like, okay, I'm kind of done with it. The point is, however, you can track that whole arc. You can read, and it's kind of easy to understand, even if it does get a little weird and convoluted. Dragon Ball was the same way. Fantasy, weird martial arts show, and then aliens got involved. But they actually did a pretty good job with Dragon Ball Z. The more important thing was, let's just say outright, all of our fantasy IP, all of our fiction IP is just convoluted messes over a long enough period of time. The issue right now is the values that you get from Japan's media versus American media is, well, it's shockingly offensive to me that we're at this point. I pop open the top manga, and what do I get? The big stories, the characters who overcome. I love, there's a few different narrative arcs, tropes that exist in anime and manga, and let's talk about it. Okay, so here you have Rey from Star Wars. She closes out the film by just being massively powerful for some reason. Deeply unpopular, a Mary Sue character where people are like, for no reason, she just has all these powers. Then it turns out she is the Emperor, and the Emperor steals her body. Okay, I guess. Okay, So the Emperor is now a young woman. Let me slow down. At the end of the last film, okay, the major film, the Emperor is like, strike me down in anger and I will take your body. And it's like, huh? Apparently, in order to live forever, he possesses her if she kills him. And then she does. And so everyone leaves the theater like, is the Emperor her? Like the Emperor took the young woman's body and now the guy is the lady? I would not be surprised if that's the route they go with it. But I think they're not going to do that. I just think they're just really stupid and don't know what they're writing. But this is where we're currently at. The values that you get in this is like Captain Marvel, right? Women are just powerful, but men are holding them back. Okay. How about the narrative that we get from the popular anime today and yesterday and the years before? This is why I'm like, you get all these people who rag on manga and anime, and they really just don't get it, don't understand it. Let me give you some examples. Full Metal Alchemist. When I hear people like Michael Malice, he's a friend, but he criticizes, he scoffs at it. Bro clearly has never even given it a chance. How close-minded of you, Michael. Because Full Metal Alchemist is a story about a government conspiracy to sacrifice people to empower the wealthy, privileged elites. It's a fascinating story of the military being used to round up and sacrifice human beings. Now, there's two versions of the story. There's the manga version and then the extended anime version. Basically, what happens is, I could be getting this wrong, but they make a show. It's called Full Metal Alchemist. Halfway through, the manga writer basically is just like, hiatus. And so the the guys doing the cartoon version, not the comic version, are like, well, what do we do? So they made their version. In their story, there is a conspiracy to sacrifice humans for their alchemical research to extend their lives. I'm keeping it simple. In the manga version, it's basically the same thing. A despotic tyrant wants to sacrifice as many people as possible to empower himself. Okay. You basically have this great story of government conspiracy, murder, and it's fascinating. These two kids sacrifice nearly kill themselves trying to resurrect their mom. It's an interesting concept. But you have other stories, most of the popular ones, where it's like you have Naruto, you have Black Clover, you have My Hero Academia. They're shows. Doesn't matter if you know what they are. They're about young men who are of limited talent, who work as hard as possible to build up their talent to actually succeed. To put it simply, in all of these stories, and many of these stories, you basically have someone who has no natural talent, who struggles, is mocked and belittled, but they think to themselves, I will work hard, and if I work hard, I can be the best. One of the reasons I absolutely hate Pokemon is that their main character, Ash Ketchum, is a perennial loser. It's just like, he just loses. And the story's like, but friendship is the real mission. And I'm like, no, that's trash. He's like, oh, I lost again. What a failure I am. I don't want to watch that garbage. You know, I love Black Clover. Black Clover. All right, let me give you. So basically, all these young people, it's like all of a sudden one day they get a magic book. I'm keeping it simple. And it allows them to use magic powers. Wow. Well, this one kid really wants to be a magic knight, but he does not get his book. Sorry. He cannot be the magic man. That's too bad. So what is the story about? The dude decides to train himself to the peak of human physical power. And then I really love in the early parts of the show, manga, he goes to fight in the arena. And I'm simplifying things. He does get an anti-magic book. He gets a sword, but he has no magic. He can't use magic. But he's so physically powerful, he defeats and wins in these battles with those who have magic. To put it quite simply, my friends, the story of this show is you may have no raw natural talent. There may be people born into privilege above you. You may be but a humble boy in rags. But if you work hard and train every day, you can be the best. And I'm like, that's the message you get from anime? No wonder young people, young dudes like this stuff and are abandoning Western media. Because the story of Captain Marvel and Rey is that they had the magic within them the whole time and had to do nothing to get it. But it's the men holding them down. Okay, no dude is trying to stop women. Like, no young boys fantasizing about telling women they can't have a job. They don't care about that. But there are many, many young men who feel like they don't have the raw talent or ability, are lost or wayward, and don't know where to start. And then you get all these shows, My Hero Academia. In this show, you can be born with superpowers. That's right. And all these young people, they have superpowers. They get to go and they go to school and learn how to be superheroes. But unfortunately, our main character was born with no powers. And so, through hard work, he trains himself and eventually proves himself. And it's not the same as Black Clover, but a powerful hero says, "You are of good character, and I will bestow upon you the powers that I have that are passed down from person to person." Once again, you have the story of you got to be a good person. You got to work hard. Naruto is the same thing. Delinquent kid, orphan, everybody made fun of him. He kind of sucked, didn't know what he was doing, but then figures out how to become good, becomes the best. I love those stories. I can't stand what they're doing in America, in the US, with Western media. It's all basically just this idea that you're entitled to power, that you should be, it's woke. That's what it is. Whereas probably you and I believe in meritocracy and responsibility. These shows are all about just having the gift and being the powerful one. But that's not reality. Basically, what they've done is they've started making superhero shows for the powerful, for the elite, and those born into privilege. And it's cringe. You take a look at Iron Man, for instance. What's his story? He's born into power and privilege, and he works for a family that manufactures weapons. He has this breakthrough understanding, realizing the destruction that his weapons bring, and decides, he's going to try and help people, even though he's kind of a scummy dude. It's fascinating. Now, the Marvel Cinematic Universe version of Iron Man was really, really amazing. The idea for Iron Man was to create a character that you should just absolutely despise, a drunk, arrogant, military-industrial complex guy, but he's a hero. And there's a great character arc there. He's not a bad guy. He actually sacrifices his power and wealth to try and do something good. We like those stories. Batman, his parents are killed, so he trains to become the smartest, the fastest. Probably why he's one. Hey, I'll tell you this. My favorite superhero is Batman because he's a regular guy. Now, I don't mean regular as in he's not rich. Of course, he's super wealthy. My point is he doesn't have superpowers. He worked really hard to train himself, utilizing the power of human ingenuity and technology that he's able to purchase through his wealth. What Batman represents is someone who is willing to work hard, train hard, study hard. With all of the gifts that human technology can bestow upon him, he is lifted up by all of the people of the world and the technology they have to create the greatest detective with amazing technologies. Iron Man's cool like that too, but, he doesn't have the same virtues. These are the stories that are inspiring to me. Instead, this is what we get. So Elon Musk roasts them. He says it's getting ridiculous, but I love how simply a tweet from Elon Musk can become a major story. Alex says, at some point, Disney shareholders need to file a class action lawsuit for breach of its fiduciary duty. After several years of repeating these same failures, I think it's reasonable to argue that Disney has officially decided to put its ideology ahead of its shareholders. Yeah, Disney's going to fail. This is why so many other outlets, so many other Rippaverse, this is why culture is succeeding in other areas. Disney is failing, and they're going to keep failing. So I say, fine. It kind of bums me out, but I stopped watching all the Marvel stuff. I love the Marvel MCU. I thought Endgame was kind of meh. Infinity War was a masterpiece. Endgame was kind of just, remember this, remember that. And it's like, oh, okay, yeah, we get it. And now they're doing all this goofy multiverse stuff, and I'm just over it. I didn't watch Loki. I'm not watching What If. I didn't watch Secret. I don't care. I didn't go see the Marvels. It's just over because it's turned into cringe garbage. By all means, play that game. But here's the reality for you. Talk to anybody who's got kids, and you all with kids, this. I'm hanging out over the holidays, and I'm hanging out with this couple, and they've got two kids that are like 2 and 5 years old or whatever, and they're just like, dude, all this talk about gender neutral stuff and whatever, it's fake news. Because anybody who's raised children, is that a boy and a girl, they just know, like, boys do things and girls do things. They were telling us, like, For some reason, the little boy has just started smashing things. Like, no one ever told him to do it. And for some reason, the little girl started picking up dolls and nurturing them. For real. They were like, the little girl wants to carry on the dolls and baby them, and the little boy is just smashing things. And they're actually like, why are you doing that? Because little boys are different. And this is where we're at. They're trying to create stories to tell little girls to smash, but little girls don't want to smash. They're trying to tell little boys to sit still and shut up, but little boys want to run around and smash. Break things. Calm down. Little girls don't want to break, don't want to fight, but they keep making movies about these kids, about these women who do. And I wonder, like at a certain point, it just doesn't work. Okay. And that's what we're seeing with Disney's failures. It just doesn't work. And they're going to keep trying to do it anyway. I tell you this, my friends, it is all just so cringe. But whatever, we'll wrap this one up here. You get the point. You get the point. I don't know, weird length of a segment. I did this yesterday, but it is what it is. Next segment is coming up at 6 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all then.